They certainly didn't reinvent the wheel for this movie, and I am so glad that they didn't, because I had a blast. Welcome to Voice of the Fat Mantis and my review of Black Adam, only in theaters. I just got back home from my viewing of Black Adam, and I can finally pitch into this really harsh conversation happening online. When I mean harsh, what I mean is I think the fans are going to be divided on this one, because I think at this point, the superhero genre has become such a bloated monstrosity of a creature, it's at the point where we can't even agree on what we want as a community to see. You see, every movie has its own lane, and if you stick to your lane, you're doing well. You just need to decide, are you a thinking man story? Are you a dramatic story? Want to tell a story about a mother and a daughter who have lost communication? Or maybe you'd like to get all cerebral and be something weird like that movie Pi, or almost any time travel movie made after 2007. This movie's lane certainly is a thrill ride, and they definitely stuck to it, and they accelerated beyond capacity. They understood that what they were bringing us is a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson film with superhero antics, and they're not looking for some sort of cerebral experience, and quite frankly, I appreciated it. Once The Rock appears in this movie, it is non-stop action, and I really liked it. This movie kind of served as a palate cleanser. I think the last few years of comic book movies have been kind of, I don't want to say a drag, because I am a big fan of Marvel. I'm a fan of all of it, really. But I just feel like the movies aren't as good, and it is possible that some properties have gotten too out of hand with Easter eggs and connections, and you have to do homework for certain characters to understand what's going on, and you need none of this. As a matter of fact, I would say the introduction of the Justice Society is handled so well. They use a tactic that I've felt we should have used for movies a long time ago. I think certain villains and certain heroes can just kind of appear, and you don't need to always give an origin story. I've seen some ridiculous takes on this. As we know, I don't get screeners and I don't get invited to premieres, so I'm late in the game at offering my opinion on this. But I've seen other YouTubers and professional critics, some of the worst takes I've seen critical of this movie are that they should have made this movie a nuanced conversation about slavery, capital punishment, and the Middle East standing in world politics. They should have subtracted characters such as Sabak, Cyclone, and Atom Smasher so they could focus more on the Middle Easternness of it all. Yeah, that's from like an 80-year-old woman, or really a 35-year-old with a mind of an 80-year-old woman, or maybe it was written by a psychopath. All I'm saying is this is not what people want, and that isn't what I needed. This action-packed gem of a movie is what I needed, and I'm all for it. Ultimately, I'm going to give this piece a 8.9 out of 10 just because I had so much fun. Now, I'm heading into my spoiler part, so if you don't want to know anything, like any details, just scurry on out of my video, man. Just get out of here. Go out and see it, then come back to this point in my video so you can get down with the get down. First, cameo of the Century Harcourt. If you don't know who that person is, well, I feel sorry for you. But if you do, then you would know that she is from The Peacemaker. She is awesome. She is great. I just like that little tidbit. It kind of was the icing on the cake from already having Amanda Waller. The Justice Society is in there, and that includes Dr. Fate, Hawkman, Cyclone, and the Atom Smasher, who are all brilliantly realized. The costuming in this movie is done so well. I could not believe they pulled off Dr. Fate's costume. Normally, Dr. Fate and Hawkman are two characters who usually have the worst costumes. We've seen them in Smallville. We've seen them actually in CW productions. We've probably seen them in a bunch of other stuff too. I just know every time you have Hawkman out, it's going to be cheesy. It's going to be bad. They usually don't have the CGI effects to keep it going, but this pulled it off. They made him a true menacing threat, and I love it. Now, Hawkman's is a very important character in this piece. He might as well be a second protagonist to reflect the horrors that Black Adam is used to inflicting on people. We've got Hawkman, who seems to be a principled man, a lawful good man. They're both super strong, super durable, gluttons for punishments, and they will not back down on their moral stance. And I really liked that they kind of mirrored each other, and I liked that in the end they had to work together to make this happen. We've got Dr. Fate. He was so well realized. He's not canonical Dr. Fate. There were several differences in it, but close enough. And I think Pierce Brosnan as an older, more charming Dr. Fate was pretty cool. He does unfortunately die at the end of this film, and his helmet does eventually vanish. At his helmet, when I was a kid in the 90s, Dr. Fate was a woman. And that's the Dr. Fate I grew up with. I didn't even know there was a male Dr. Fate until in the 2000s there was like Justice League Unlimited. And I was like, why is Dr. Fate a man? Turns out the original Dr. Fate was a dude. But the helmet eventually passes on to a woman named Ina. And I would love for that to happen. If there's some way we can see more Justice Society, whether they get a movie or maybe that would be a good HBO Max streaming show. Maybe that might be better than some of the crap they're greenlighting now. That might be fun. And it could pass on to a woman. And this would be a comics-friendly, comics-accurate gender bend that we can all get behind, right? So diversity. And Atom Smasher, just looking good, looking great. He was fun. He's kind of a comic relief. He didn't overly comic relief it like a certain young character in this film. Now, I should have probably put this in the non-spoilers, but there is a character, a little boy on a skateboard. It's cringe as and it was really, every time he's on screen, he annoys me. Every time he's doing something on screen, it's so annoying. But thank God he gets shelved at a certain point. I'm like, okay, good riddance to bad rubbish. That was a misfire, but it doesn't bring down the entire movie, like that kid from Iron Man 3. Next, we have the Superman villain, Intergang. The reason I bring them up is I just mentioned that Justice Society might have a future in the movies, and I think Intergang might too. We see Intergang, but we really don't know much about them. Now, in the comic book, they were a gang who got the edge on crime against other crime families and other gangsters because they're given weapons from the New Gods. Because we actually don't see the higher ups of the Intergang. These are the lackeys. But if they ever bring it back to a Superman story where we can actually see who's running it, maybe Lex Luthor is behind it, maybe the guys from the comic books are, maybe they do get their weapons from the New Gods. This is just really the icing on the cake of a much deeper story. This film laid a lot of eggs that will grow into beautiful chicken. That was a bizarre way to put that, wasn't it? I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said it like that. That was weird. And finally, Hawkman's jet coming out of a basketball court in the back of his mansion. Yeah, it's true. It is a lot like the X-Men's Blackbird. Now, the Fox movies had 6 or 7 opportunities with the X-Men movies to make the Blackbird the Batmobile of the skies. They could have really made it an envious piece of technology that we all want, but the only thing they ever used it for was transportation. It was a glorified bus service. But in this, Hawkman's jet, which is very much a ripoff of the X-Men's Blackbird, is way better because it's got all sorts of doohickeys, gadgets, space. They're living in luxury. They might as well have showers and espresso machines down there, man, because it was just the coolest jet ever. It made Wayne Technology look like a sucker fool. That's right. Batman, you need to get your tech up because Hawkman is coming for you. Finally, we're going to talk about the cameo. Now, you all know what's going on. Superman appeared in this film, and it was literally for 2 seconds. First thing I noticed when he came out of that smoke, and he says, "You and me have to talk." His suit is so bright and so brightly colored, I freaking loved it. You know, they've been slowly cranking up the light specs, with the exception of the Snyder Cut, which turned it all the way black, because that's Zack Snyder for you. But they finally cranked it to the right adjustment of Superman. It really popped. It looked amazing. Just seeing Henry Cavill, man, the crowd went wild. We love it. Man of Steel 2, please happen. Now, there's a lot of speculation what's going on. I mean, even The Rock said he's hoping that the movie they're eventually moving toward is a Superman versus Black Adam, and I am all for that piece. Now, some people suggest he's going to fight the Suicide Squad or the entire Justice League. I mean, maybe their battle could be in a Justice League versus Black Adam movie. That would be kind of cool. But I don't know. I like the idea of them being friends, like uncomfortable friends, like weird friends. You know, when you have that weird friend at work and you're like, this man would slit my throat if I turned my back on him, but I like him. I have a feeling that's how it's going to go, but I don't know. We'll see. This has opened up the floodgates, and if you're seeing any bad reviews or people hating on it, there are people with an agenda who want to see this movie fail. And the reason why they want this movie to fail is they want the Snyderverse to be shut down. They want everyone recast. They want everyone shut down. They want Matthew Reeves to run everything, to take everyone's superpowers again away, to turn all the villains into incels who are on the internet. And I'm not about that life. I like this world. I like the world that Snyder set up for us. It doesn't have to be Snyder in control. And this is clear that these movies can be made without Snyder being involved. And I really enjoyed this movie. So my vote is you go and see Black Adam as fast as humanly possible. Unless you're uptight, in which case you're not going to enjoy this movie. But those are my thoughts. What are yours? Please let me know down in the comments. Remember to give me a like. Remember to smash that subscribe button. And keep tuning into Voice of the Fat Mantis for more movie reviews, comic book analysis, and all the DCEU news that's fit to print. Until next time, ciao for now.